In this video, we'll prepare a cash and GPP lineup on FanDuel for the Sunday main slate for Week 12, and it's coming up next. Hello, everyone. I'm Eric Lee.
And I'm Michael Wiley, and we're the Fantasy Football Consultants. Eric, it's Thanksgiving week. It's a great week for food. It's a great week for football. And it's a great week because we just hit 10,000 subscribers. I'm really got to thank the fans. They support us so much with their comments.
Let's get into it. But this is Thanksgiving. We need some help.
Yeah, and so fortunately, Thanksgiving time means that there's some people around, and I got a couple of helpers. Some of them you guys have seen before. I got my son, Coleman Wiley, come on in. And also an expert from in the fantasy world, Steve Hoops, who's from the Bay Area, from where I'm coming from before. Hey guys, how you doing?
Good to be here.
Good. I think expert's a little high on the list, but I'll see what I can contribute today.
All right, because if this lineup doesn't work out, Michael and I have a couple of scapegoats.
That's right. That's part of the reason we like to do this on this Thanksgiving week. Let's start like we always like to, especially in FanDuel with half PPR. At the running back position, and we got Derrick Henry up there at the top, Christian McCaffrey, all these guys who are super exciting, but they're kind of expensive. And I know there's some stuff that we want to do a little bit later. So I want to go with a couple of guys that will cost us a lot less money, but I think have very nice floors because of what they've been doing recently and because of the matchups that they have. So we're going to start at $6,100, attacking one of the worst defenses in the league, and that is the Atlanta Falcons. He's getting more and more touches each week. Look at the increase, not only in carries, but he's also, because J.D. McKissic is out for the rest of the season, he's been getting a lot of targets, right? And he's got breakaway speed. He's now breaking some tackles. He hasn't actually gotten the end zone a whole lot recently, but he's still producing, consistently in the teens. And if he can start getting in the end zone, and I think he can do that against this Atlanta Falcons defense, he's got a really nice floor at $6,100, saving us money for the rest of the lineup. What do you think, Eric?
No, I like it as a start. We get to save some money off the bat. Like the game environment, you already talked about how bad Atlanta is. But, he's a home favorite, 4 points with an implied total. That's not too bad at 23. Heineke is playing better ball, and I always like Gibson in games that the Commanders are favored. So, good start.
All right, so let's pick on another defense in the NFC South that's pretty bad against the run. And let's go with a guy who's, he's taken over all the carries for his team because his battery mate can't hold on to the football. So he's $100 more. That's Latavius Murray going up against the Carolina Panthers, who again have also been pretty bad against the run. Murray, if you watch this game against the Raiders, they didn't end up being able to run the ball a whole lot because they were coming from behind. But you saw that he was getting not only the touches, the carries, but he was also involved in the passing game. And so again, a really high floor, what we like to go to in cash game. Steve, I know you know a little bit about this guy. Tell me why you like Latavius Murray so much.
There's nobody else. They just waived Melvin Gordon. He's the lead back. He's going to take the bulwark of the carries going into this week. I think he's a great sneaky play against this defense. You can't go wrong. Save us some money for other positions.
So I love the start. Two very economical backs who I expect both teams to win, Washington and Denver, for them to be ahead. So, all right, let's go to wide receiver.
Yeah, Eric, our viewers are probably going to be a little confused. Usually we like to throw out some expensive guys at the start. We must be saving it for wide receiver. So you're going to go with an expensive guy right out of the bat, right?
No. I am not going to spend up. I will still save money. Even though I'm going to get a number one wide receiver on his team at only $6,000. Let's welcome to the ball club, Garrett Wilson. All right, folks, I just have a question for you. Do you trust the New York Jets offense or not against the Chicago Bears, right? That's the issue. Because Wilson is going to be a major part of whatever Zach Wilson does. The problem was the pie was so small last week because in very windy conditions, the Jets didn't move the ball at all. I think they get back on track, and I think you're going to see more of hopefully what we saw the 2 weeks prior against a Chicago defense that is not good. Definitely weaker than the New England team that they just faced and the Buffalo team, which he went off. So I like this pick at only $6,000, Michael.
Yeah, the Bears, what was it? Roquan Smith, they traded him away, really hurt them out from a defensive perspective. I was really surprised that they did that. But you better bet Zach Wilson wants to take advantage of that so that he gets out of the doghouse that he's got with Robert Saleh right now. And Garrett Wilson's going to be a beneficiary of that. So we really like, especially in half PPR leagues, to go with a guy who's not only going to get most of the targets, but also have a chance to get some of the goal line looks. And that's what Garrett Wilson's been for the Jets. So Eric, you're saving so much money for us. On top of it, I'm going to spend a little more than that because we got to make sure we got some guys with some real upside as well. And I'm going to go with my guy, Terry McLaurin, who 7,500. He's going up against, we've already got picked on Atlanta. Let's pick on him again, because guess what? Their defensive backfield's as bad as their rushing defense. And McLaurin has looked phenomenal in the last several weeks. Did you see what he did against the Eagles 2 weeks ago? Eagles, supposedly one of the best defensive backfields, going up against Darius Slay and some of these other defensive backs who, were shadowing him and making sure he couldn't go off. He's so quick. He can even get open when he's drawing the number one defenseman. He's also being used in the slot a little bit. And where he was just a downfield threat, he's now the number one threat for the Commanders. I really like Terry McLaurin's floor and his upside. You've saved us some money, and we're still not spending that much. What do you think?
All right. I like it. I mean, I've been a big fan of his for a long time. Whenever he gets quality quarterback play, he plays well. He's going to hold his part of the bargain. All right. So, I think we've got big plans for this lineup. We are at $6,840 per player, and we will not spend a lot of money on defense. So I want to go big on our last three picks. So therefore, I want to go bargain basement on our last wide receiver, and I have a bunch of conditionals that completely depends on the situation of other guys being injured. So the first scenario I want to go to is the Kansas City game. So the Kansas City Ram game, if we look at the wide receivers, we've got a situation here where McCall Hardman is absolutely out. Kadarius Toney has a bad hamstring. I'm pretty sure he will not play. Juju Smith-Schuster has a concussion. I'm unclear whether he will play. And it becomes a situation of next man up. And I think you're going to see Marquez Valdez-Scantling become a starter for sure. And he's 5,800. That's a pretty good bargain. But I can go lower than that if just one of the guys between Smith-Schuster and Toney is out. Then you can go Sky Moore. He will become a starter. If both of those two guys are out, meaning Smith-Schuster and Toney, I expect at $5,000 that Justin Watson will get significant amount of playing time. It's just, we've talked about it before, Michael. Pat Mahomes will spread it around. And he's facing a Ram team whose offense, the Rams' offense, is in shambles. So they're not going to be holding long, sustained drives. So I think Kansas City is going to dominate this game in time of possession, and they will be throwing plenty. And the nice thing about a Sky Moore or a Justin Watson is that the star shutdown quarter, Jalen Ramsey, is likely going to be on the more proven Marquez Valdez-Scantling, which should free up something for some of these lower cost guys. here's the bottom line. Follow the injury report. Any comment out there from you three about this Kansas City receiving core?
Their running back field are not catching out of the backfield with no CEH. You look at the last week, neither of the other options, McKinnon or Pacheco had, or I guess there were, between the two of them, there was only one pass out of the backfield. So you're really going to not go wrong with the wide receiver core.
So Justin Watson, he's being used in the slot, kind of the Juju Smith-Schuster role when he's in there. You probably know him by his number more than his name. He's number 84 on Kansas City, and you probably saw him a little bit the last several weeks. So again, we're banking on these injuries, but Eric, let's face it, our viewers at this point are saying, okay, what's the punchline? Who you've been saving all this money for? Coleman, right? We got some pretty expensive quarterbacks. Who's calling your name this week?
I mean, obviously it's tempting to go right to the top and go with Patrick Mahomes, but I'm liking Lamar Jackson here against Jacksonville, right? I mean, he's not super expensive. He's the 5th quarterback up there, only $8,200, and we've got plenty of room to splurge. But the reason I like him is, one, he's a dual threat quarterback, which is great in fantasy, right? Because what he lacks in his air game, he's going to make up on the ground. And even though Justin Fields, they have him ranked a little bit higher up here, I like Lamar Jackson against Jacksonville. They gave up around 20 points a game, which leaves plenty of scoring for Lamar Jackson. And he's got Mark Andrews back. He just came back this last week. And I know he didn't do a ton for people who have him in fantasy, but he's still, his number one weapon. So he's going to have that availability. He's going to have plenty of time with the ball. The Jacksonville offense love to have turnovers, count on 1 or 2 from Trevor Lawrence. And so they're going to dominate time of possession. He's going to have plenty of time to move the ball. He's solid. You can trust him.
Yeah, look what he's done. Even when he's that last game was pretty atrocious in terms of how it shook out in terms of what it was at 3-3 almost the whole game. And he still ended up getting 16 fantasy points, which I know is not super high, but that's what he gets even in a horrible game. He hasn't looked right in terms of how he's hit his targets. I think that Jacksonville's just what the doctor ordered for Lamar Jackson to get back.
All right, I'm starting to get the deal what's going on. Michael, you bring your son on the show this week, and we have a lineup that has Jackson, Gibson, Wilson, and Watson. Okay, all right. So where are we going to go from here, Michael?
Well, we're going to go with the old man in Kansas City for the tight end spot. Travis Kelce. Everybody thought he's washed up. A lot of people didn't pick him in the first round this year because they thought he was risky because he's 34 years old now. That's old for a tight end. And what has he done? He has been by far the best fantasy tight end in the league. I say by far, we're talking miles ahead of everyone, right? And so you have to pay up to get Kelce, but he's got a floor that's 3 floors above the second best tight ends in the league right now. And so if you want to get a guy who's going to put you way ahead of your position, Kelce's the guy. Yeah, okay, maybe he's not going to get 3 touchdowns again or 4 touchdowns like he did several weeks ago against the Raiders. Maybe he's only going to get 1 or 2, but who does Pat Mahomes, especially with some of these wideouts being gone, look to in the red zone? Who does he look to on 3rd down? Who does he look to when he's scrambling? It's Travis Kelce, because he's huge and he can run with the best, even defensive backs. You got to love this guy. He is an automatic fantasy scorer. Get Travis Kelce in your lineup.
Coleman, I have a question for you. And veteran FFC watchers know that you are a varsity high school quarterback. So if you were in a situation where you've got your favorite target, right? But your second favorite and your third favorite and your fourth favorite are out. What's the mentality that you have every time you go back to pass?
Oh, get him the ball as much as I can. The thing Patrick Mahomes does great that I think is great for him as a quarterback is that he likes to give Travis Kelce a chance. He knows that he's his best guy, and so he looks to him often, not only as his number one option, but also when he's in trouble, he goes right to Kelce. And so he's the guy. I mean, if I was Mahomes, I don't want to get injured against the Rams, right? And so anytime I'm in trouble, I'm looking for Kelsey's big body. He's going to throw it up there, and Kelsey's either going to catch it or make sure nobody else does.
I mean, look what he did against Tennessee 3 weeks ago. 17 targets. I can't remember when the last time anyone's gotten 17 targets. Is amazing. It's crazy.
But you know what I'm going to focus on is look what he did last week when he didn't have a lot of his other weapons. When it got around the goal line, he just kept throwing it to, as Coleman said, his big target for touchdown. So, all righty.
All right. I think we've been holding on to another guy because he's in the late window who everybody probably expected us to look at right away. Who do we want to go with in the flex spot, Eric?
Yeah, so we went cheap early to just get star after star after star. First Lamar Jackson, then Travis Kelce, and now we're going to add. I'm actually surprised that there are 4 guys that are more expensive than him. Austin Eckler at $8,800. You know, this guy is just so incredibly good. Here's the bottom line you have to ask yourself. Just tick off what you want in a job description for a running back. You want someone that can be a bell cow when called upon, can shoulder a lot of carries. Check. You want a guy who's going to get heavily involved in the passing game. Check. And you want someone who's going to be great on the goal line. No one has more touchdowns this year than Austin Eckler other than Jamal Williams. So let's take a look at defense. And quite honestly, I think FanDuel screwed up with their pricing. The defense that I'm going to target, I think, was the second or third highest on DraftKings. So let's go here look how far I have to go down. At $3,900, the Denver Broncos. I don't understand it. Denver's had a lot of problems this year, but not on the defensive side. Their defense has been really good. Well, meanwhile, they played the Carolina Panthers, whose offense is terrible, coming off a game in which they scored a whopping 3 points against the Baltimore Ravens. Without Christian McCaffrey on the Carolina Panthers, it just really, really hurts that offense. They are not getting good quarterback play. I really like Denver here. What are your thoughts, Michael?
Yeah, I mean, Baker Mayfield's at the helm. He was okay for a few years at Cleveland when he had the nice rushing attack and he could play from ahead. He's not a good quarterback from a fantasy perspective when he's playing from behind in terms of giving up points to defenses. And so I like this play. I mean, yeah, Denver got rid of Bradley Chubb this year, Von Miller a couple of years. They're not the same team that they were, but Patrick Surtain is still a stud. They get sacks, they get turnovers. I like this at $4,000 or $3,900.
All right, so that's our cash lineup. Let's move over to GPP. All right, we're going to quickly go through this GPP lineup. Michael, I'm not going to talk about the running backs because it's the same 3 running backs that we had for the cash lineup. But I want to talk about the stack that increases hopefully our ceiling. We're going to attack the Las Vegas-Seattle game. Geno Smith to DK Metcalf, who's $200 cheaper than Tyler Lockett, and we needed that $200. Metcalf is still someone who has the ability to have a big game with his size and his speed. And then running that back with by far the super stud on your Raiders, Davante Adams. What do you think of the stack in this game?
Yeah, no, I like Geno Smith going up against my Raiders' atrocious defensive backfield and going to one of his wide receivers. And I agree, Metcalf has as much or more upside as Lockett, and so having him more expensive, Lockett be more expensive. Let's go with him. And Davante Adams, I mean, come on, look what he did just this last week alone. And arguably the Seattle defense is weaker than Denver's. So I know it's in Seattle, which might be tough on Derek Carr a little bit. But Davante Adams is the only way that the Raiders can win is when they get him the ball.
Okay, so we're going to attack the Arizona game with Austin Eckler, who we've talked about, and Gerald Everett. He came back last year, the tight end, last game, the tight end. So he should be 100% healthy this particular week. Now, I have a question for you, Michael. So we can go with this particular lineup. Or what do you think if we change this? So do you like this lineup more? Or if we switch out Geno Smith, since we are going to have multiple Chargers and put in Justin Herbert. Now, we're $300 over, so we're going to have to scale down on the defense. So in that case, we'll slide in the Cincinnati Bengals. So what do you think? Do you like this lineup or our original one?
Well, the Raiders' defense is atrocious, but did you see the Arizona Cardinals tried to make Garoppolo look like he's a great quarterback this last week? So I think Herbert's just going to continue to come on. Those of you guys who have him in your fantasy lineup and been disappointed by the beginning of the year, he's going to have a good end of the year, I think. So yeah, I think that's a good upgrade. Cincinnati is not a horrible defense as an alternative, so I could certainly go for this as well.
All right, I'll let the viewers decide. Pick the lineup you like more. And I want to wish all of our FFC community, we greatly appreciate all of you guys. We're thankful for you. Michael and I broke down the DraftKings Week 12 Sunday slate, and we'll also put the FanDuel Thanksgiving slate video on the screen. Until next time, take care, everybody.
Enjoy that turkey.
Just when you think this show is terrible, something wonderful happens.
What?
It ends.